Welcome to the Tatacoa Desert. Getting here from Bogota took me 7 hours, 3 buses, and almost no Wi-Fi. But I discovered one of the most unreal landscapes in Colombia. From a red landscape that looks like Mars to gray formations that look like ghosts, this place is definitely worth the visit. Here is everything you need to know before visiting this place. I'm Val, a Colombian traveling the world, and welcome to a new trip. So we start our journey in Terminal El Salitre located in Bogota. There are 2 terminals in Bogota, one is Terminal El Salitre and the other is Terminal del Sur. You most likely will find buses to Neiva from both of them, but I recommend Terminal El Salitre. The journey is between 5 and 7 hours, first to Neiva, and then in there you have to take another bus that will take you to Villavieja. Keep something in mind. You may find some buses in the internet for the whatever place you need to go to, but as a Colombian I would recommend that you actually go to the terminal to buy your tickets, because there are many places in Colombia where you may not find the ticket you're looking for in the internet. So if you have time and you arrive earlier to Bogota, I would recommend that you go to the terminal, buy your ticket in advance. Mind you, buses also get planned as the demand comes, so if you go way too in advance, you may not find it. So 2 or 3 days before your trip is perfect. Now, would you find a ticket on the same day of your journey? Yes, you might. But if you're traveling during high season, that is usually July, August, or November, December, and January, you may not find the tickets on the day of your journey. So I would recommend you book it in advance. Another thing that might happen is that when you buy the ticket in the terminal, you may find it cheaper than when you buy it in the internet. For us, the ticket was 64,000 pesos, and it's just a one-way journey. Another tip you may need that I'm going to give you as a Colombian is the fact that even if you book your ticket online, you will still need to go to the ticket booth because the receipt won't be useful for boarding the bus. So if you're a foreigner coming to Colombia, you may be used to the fact that if I pay for the ticket in the internet, I have the ticket on my phone and that's it. Here is different. So keep this in mind. Now, let's go. We have a 7 hours journey ahead of us. So after a 7 hours trip, we're finally in Neiva's terminal. The road is usually 5 hours, but getting outside of Bogota is actually very complicated, so you're probably going to take the same 7 hours. After that, in Neiva's terminal, you need to buy the ticket to Villavieja. Like I mentioned before, there are many tickets that you're not going to find on the internet, and this is one of them. So you cannot buy it in advance, you just have to arrive to the terminal, ask around, and then buy the ticket there to Villavieja. So there are actually 2 ways of getting to Villavieja. One is the way I did it, that I arrived to Neiva first and then took another bus to Villavieja, but there is another way. You can take a bus from Bogota to a small town called Aipe that is before Neiva, and from there you can cross the Magdalena River to Villavieja. The route through Aipe is actually shorter than the one to Neiva, but I was searching for the route, and apparently you need to walk around 20 minutes in a very rural area, so that can be a little dangerous. So for safety reasons, I decided to go through the long way, but you can also do it the other way. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the bus from Neiva to Villavieja is 11,000 pesos. So finally, after an 8 hours trip, we arrived to Villavieja. Usually the road from Neiva to Villavieja should be 1 hour, but traffic and stuff, you'll see. Keep in mind that Villavieja is a really small town, so if you come here expecting to see a lot of party and stuff to do, you won't find it. It is perfect to stay for a few days before going to the desert, so I do recommend you stay in Villavieja rather than in La Tatacoa, unless you don't have any tours and you have transportation. Many people recommend staying in La Tatacoa in itself because of the stargazing, but let me tell you that staying at the desert is more expensive than staying in the town. And there are many tours that actually include the stargazing without you having to stay in the desert. Also, the accommodation in the desert is more basic than in town, so you're probably going to find tents and hostels rather than private rooms and stuff like that. So I just arrived to my accommodation. Please ignore my face. I've been traveling for around 10 hours by this point, and I'm staying in Villavieja. The town is really small, like I mentioned before, so you can arrive to every single place just by walking. So the bus dropped us in the main park, and then we just walked 2 streets to our accommodation. Right now we are staying in a private room, 2 nights, 3 days, and it was 140,000 Colombian pesos for 2 people and those 2 nights, which is pretty good price. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to stay this night in Villavieja. Tomorrow I'm going to the desert. I'm going to spend the entire day in the desert, and then I'm staying another night in Villavieja before going back to Bogota. You can do the same, or if you want to stay more days in the desert, then I would recommend you stay there. We are taking a tour for going tomorrow to the desert because we didn't bring car or anything like that. So if you come to Villavieja or to the desert without a drive, I would recommend you do a tour as well. So we started today with breakfast. The tour starts at 8:30 a.m. with breakfast. I will talk later about what the tour includes, but spoiler alert, it includes food. So that's how we start the day, and today we're going to spend the entire day in the desert. So while we walk through the red desert, I'm going to talk a bit about the tour. So as you see, I changed my outfit, which brings me my first tip of the day. Bring a long sleeve. I don't know if you can tell by my face, but the sun here is very, very strong during the day. So I recommend you bring a long sleeve for that. Of course, don't bring a sweater because the heat is unbearable. Although for the night, do bring a sweater. Now, I must admit, this is my first desert after 20 plus countries, and I am very impressed by the land. It is very pretty. So we took a one-day tour through the desert that includes both the red desert, the gray desert, and the 3 meals. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even a snack. And also it includes the astronomical observation during the night. So the tour is around 12 hours and you can see everything. It's a one-day tour, so that's why it starts so early. But the agency also offers 2 days tour, 3 days tour, and stuff like that with accommodation within the desert or even in Villavieja. Do you need a tour to see the desert? The answer is no. Why I prefer to do it is because I don't have transportation. So I didn't bring car, motorcycle, or anything to the desert. And without transportation, it is actually harder to see it than when you have a car. So if you come with your car, or if you're renting car in Colombia and come here with your own transportation, then no, you don't need the tour. You can just see the desert like that. But if you don't, I would recommend that you actually take a tour, at least for one day. Now, I mentioned that you don't need to stay in the desert because, for example, this tour already includes the astronomical watching. But if you would like to spend some time in the desert during the night, then you can stay. Now, if you prefer to do things slower, you can take the 2 days tour, and it starts around midday and it ends at 5 p.m. the next day. So that's a little slower. For us, the one-day tour with the astronomical view and all the transportations and meals included was 279,000 pesos per person. So despite its name, the Tatacoa Desert is not actually a desert. The reason behind that is because it's not made of sand. 58,000 years ago, this was water, sweet water, like a lake. And with the pass of the years, the rock formations were made. The reason why people say there are 2 deserts is actually just one but has 2 different color zones is because of the minerals on the soil. So the red desert has some types of minerals and the gray desert others. Mind you, the gray desert is actually hotter than the red desert. The vegetation is basically composed of cactuses and desertic plants that most likely have a spike, so be very careful when walking around. 2 particular tips about safety. The first one, do not move the rocks in the desert. There are animals, some of them dangerous, that live under them. And the second one, do not climb the rock formations. Why? Because it's not necessarily rock, it's actually clay, so they can collapse and you can fall. So just stick to the paths that they're somewhat clear and the places where the groups are walking. Also bring enough water. I already talked about the clothes, a hat, and sunscreen. So the difference in colors, as I mentioned, is minerals. So the red color is iron or potassium, and the yellowish color is zinc. So that's why the minerals are different. And another thing they told us is that the vegetation grows in sand. So whenever it's sandy, that's where the trees grow. If it's clay or rock, the trees don't grow. So this is the center of the red desert. They say that the red desert is like Mars on Earth. I agree, but I'll let you judge. The gray desert is actually where the most, let's say, touristic spots are located. So the red desert is more for walking and enjoying the landscape, while the gray desert is more for activities. So you'll find that the majority of the accommodations are located there. Also Tatacoa selfie and restaurants and other spots, including pools, a lot of pools, where you can enjoy activities rather than walking around the landscape. So as you can see in the Great Desert, there are more, let's say, interactive activities to do. This is Tatacoa Selfie. So it's a place where you can take pictures of different stuff within the Great Desert in case you come with your family, partner, or stuff like that. Of course, this is a desert, so the UFO thematic never misses. So there is also that. One thing I forgot to mention about the tour is where to buy it. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. You will find it in pages like Get Your Guide and stuff like that. But it's going to be very, very expensive. So I would recommend that, yes, you look it in the internet, but in a local website. That's what I did. Or when you arrive to the desert, you can check with your accommodation if they have the tour. They will most likely have it. If you ask around, they might also tell you where to get a guide, because everybody in Villavieja knows each other, so they may reference you to someone that can do the tour for you, or parts of it. So if you need a guide for only a part of the desert, then you may find it also there, or a local website like I did. Finally, the tour overview. How is it built? So basically they will pick you up in the morning very early if you take the one-day tour, or at midday if you take the 2 days tour. They will give you breakfast and then they will drive you to the desert. If you have your own transport, then you drive yourself to the desert. First, you're going to walk through the Red Valley or the Red Desert. It's going to be around a 2 hours walk. Then they take you through a walk in the Great Desert, and after they will take you to the pool. So you have around 30 minutes through an hour to enjoy the pool in the Great Desert. After that, they will take you to lunch and maybe another walk or more pool time after lunch. And finally, they will take you to the observatory where you can see the stars and everything. And that's it. That's your day. So the last activity we did on the desert was the stargazing, which also included a talk with an astronomist professor, which was pretty great. So my final thoughts on Tatacoa Desert is that it's definitely worth the visit. And I will consider it a hidden gem due to the fact that not so many people visit it nowadays. I will also suggest that you take the tour if you don't have transportation. Otherwise, you can do it on your own. And finally, to Villavieja, make sure to bring cash. Card is not accepted anywhere in the town and much less in the desert. So withdraw either in Bogota or in Neiva if you have to. And that's all for today's video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like my content and to subscribe and turn on notifications so YouTube keeps helping us grow. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all on the next trip.